Hi, Judge Andrew Napolitano here, and you are on Freedom Watch with my guest this week, the host of Media Buzz here on the Fox News channel, and a Fox News media analyst, and my good buddy, Howie Kurtz. Howie, we have to talk about your dynamite new book. You have covered a half dozen administrations before the Trump administration. How would you rate the level of transparency of this administration, which you talk about in Media Madness?
Well, you know, one of the overlooked things in this war between President Trump and most of the mainstream media is this may be the most accessible president of modern times. I mean, he didn't necessarily start out that way, but he's constantly stopping at the helicopter, on the road, to take questions from reporters, and I think that he doesn't get enough credit for that.
One of the lines that I extracted from your book, and I know you're familiar with it because others have asked you about it, is this. So these are your words. A common refrain among Trump's antagonists in the press is that they must resist normalizing his presidency, but in the process they have abnormalized journalism. What do you mean by that?
That goes to the heart of the argument of this book, and I did a lot of exclusive reporting, Judge, to figure out what was going on in this, what's often a very hostile relationship. And so there is this mindset, you saw it during the campaign with candidate Trump, it continues with him as president, that there are some journalists who sort of justify the fact that he is treated differently, that the coverage is just extraordinarily negative in tone and in volume. And they justify it by saying, well, we've never had a president like this, and Donald Trump doesn't know a lot about the issues, and he's unfit, and it's therefore our responsibility, Judge, to warn America about that. Well, actually, if you want to be an activist, that's fine. But that's not journalism. I mean, commentators can say what they want, although even commentators, especially on the left, some on the right, use words like unhinged, and he's a racist, and he's a misogynist, and all of that. It's just an extraordinary state of affairs, and the president, on his side, as you know, punches back all the time against what he calls fake news, against individual journalists. Sometimes I think he punches down. Sometimes I think he uses words that are a little too strong. But it's left us with a situation where people who support this president, or at least are sympathetic to him, look at the coverage and they say it's extraordinarily one-sided. How can this be fair?
All right, so I remember one of his very first press conferences. I believe he was still president-elect. It occurred, you remember this, it occurred in the lobby of Trump Tower.
Right.
It was extremely confrontational. And one of our colleagues, not a Fox person, I don't remember who it was, stood up and said to him, "Is this what we should expect in the next 4 years?" And he said, yes. And you could hear the groan, the groan of 400 journalists. So does he bring this stuff on himself? Doesn't he love the confrontation?
To a certain extent, absolutely. I mean, he says he's a counterpuncher. He likes to fight. The fact that he beats up on the press the way he does, and as I say, he has every right to do that, even though journalists whine about it. But sometimes he's off in tone. He goes too far. He likes to keep the pot churning, the plot moving forward. And in doing that, I think his base loves it. They love to see their guy sticking it to the press.
Have you ever seen, in your years of covering the half dozen presidents you've covered, a president zero in on particular journalists? I mean, Nixon and Dan Rather was nothing compared to Donald Trump and Jim Acosta.
Yeah, never seen anything like it. I don't think there has been anything like it. And, of course, this president has the Twitter megaphone in which he can carry this on. So I was just going to say, you know, his base loves it. I think it may limit him in expanding his base. And on the other side, though, I mean, when you are being called by journalists, first of all, in the book I write how journalists privately disparage this president. One New York Times reporter referring to him as a racist, Wall Street Journal guy accusing him on Twitter of threatening the planet because he pulled out of the Paris climate deal. But the bottom line is both sides actually have a stake in this. Trump uses the press as a foil. It's a great way for him to deflect when things aren't going well. He sometimes does it deliberately to change the subject. Sometimes he's just venting, and the press increasingly seems to be, many news organizations seem to be invested in a kind of anti-Trump narrative that plays to a certain audience out there and is making them money because their ratings are up.
What is the worst thing that you're aware of that any journalist or media organization has done to him in the past 12 months?
How about in the past 12 hours?
All right, we'll take that. Any time period you want. What's the worst? What's the lowest?
It was only a few months in that Lawrence O'Donnell and others at MSNBC were talking about the 25th Amendment. This guy is unhinged. You know, Jared Kushner has a line he uses when people say his father-in-law's unhinged. He says, no, he makes other people unhinged. You know, I guess, look, when you're president, you get criticized a lot. A lot of people call him a racist. I think that's unfair. But the whole questioning of his mental fitness, then that narrative kind of got blown up by the president's doctor, and you could see the reporters trying to poke holes in that because they were kind of wedded to that narrative, and also the mistakes. I mean, there have been high-profile mistakes by ABC's Brian Ross, 3 of them by CNN. Journalists have gotten fired and suspended over this.
Right.
Journalists make mistakes, but I think the bar is too low when it comes to reporting on Trump.
The book is Media Madness by the inimitable Howie Kurtz. It is an incredible, fascinating, and fast read. Howie, thank you very much. Pleasure to be with you.
Always good to talk to you, Judge.
From New York, defending freedom whenever they let me, Judge Andrew Napolitano here. See you next time, America.